fans? Welcome back to Room 237, back with another review. And here to wrap up sort of the trilogy of reviews that I started, I think, last week. But before I get to that, this time there's actually going to be two disclaimers, where the first two reviews only had one. One, yes, I am fully aware of the crimes and past of the writer-director. This is not the place to discuss that, whether this guy should be allowed to keep making films, or the kind of person he is, or what should happen to him, whether his career should even exist. I'm just here to talk about the movie, whether the movie is good or not, and that's really the only topic of conversation that should be in the comments. I mean, if I wanted an open discussion about this director, I would make a whole video about his history and his career since, and whether that should be allowed. But this is not the video for that. This is just to talk about this film. The second disclaimer is the reason why I started doing these reviews is because I saw that the reboot that's coming out on the 19th actually is coming here to my hometown. And I thought, sure, I'll go check it out. Come to find out, it's only playing for 3 nights, only at like 7 p.m. I work nights. So I was like, shit, I don't think I'm going to be able to see it. I checked to see if it's all 3 days. It is. But those 3 days are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I don't think I'm going to be able to see it. I'm sure it will go straight to streaming, Netflix or Hulu, right after that. So I'll still get to it. It's just not going to be during its short theatrical run. And if you haven't figured out by now, this review is for Jeepers Creepers 3, which I did not own when I did the first 2 last week. I just picked this up today, found it for super cheap. And I will get a little into the controversy about Victor Salva just because the controversy plays into the production of this film. This is a movie that, yes, I did wait technically 11 years for it to come out because 3 was announced in 2006. This came out in 2017. And it just had just a roller coaster ride of, of production. I mean, yeah, we're casting and then we're going to shoot on this month. Oh, no, wait. People found out who I was, canceled it, it got halted. You got put on the back burner. A couple years later, oh, same thing. Well, we're going to start casting and the whole thing. It was going to be called Jeepers Creepers Cathedral or 3 Cathedral. The original idea was to have Trish for the first film, Taggart for the second film, team up 23 years later to fight the Creeper. Then I think one of the later ideas was Trish was going to come back, team up with the sheriff department of the first film. And that did kind of half of that happened in this film. And it's not really a spoiler, but because Salva did come out and say that this was happening, that this is not taking place 23 years after the first 2. It's being set in between the first 2, which really doesn't make any sense. You could have called it 1.2 for that matter. So your trilogy all takes place in the same few days, but it goes 1, 3, 2. Which really doesn't make any sense. And Stan Shaw, who played the sheriff in the first film and he returns for this one, said that the Cathedral script was scrapped because it was more than 12 years old. Wouldn't something being 12 years older almost be beneficial to a film that's been in development hell for like a decade? I figured that would have helped it. Instead, they went back and built off of a film that was 16 years old or 15 years old at that point. So to me, it just didn't make any sense. And the weird thing is that for a movie that took 11 years to make and come out, it has a very rushed, quick, unfinished, unfocused feel to it. It feels incredibly rushed. And I think it's because Salva saw a little tiny window where it was now or never, and he just threw what he had in there. And I'm not a fan of this film. I first saw it as soon as it went to Netflix. Uh, I did not know that it was set between the first two, so that last twist at the end I thought was really stupid. And yeah, the whole thing about starring Gina Phillips, she's in a pre-credit, like final shot pre-credit scene, giving a video letter to her computer saying, "We all must team up now, for my brother Derry." But yeah, written and directed by Victor Salva, starring Stan Shaw, the sheriff in the first film, and he's been in a number of Salva's films. Meg Foster, who's been in a bunch of horror films. Gabrielle Howe, who's done like Days of Our Lives. And Jonathan Breck returns as the Creeper. Don E. Fauntleroy did the cinematography, and Andrew Morgan Smith did the music. So it's a different composer, but it still has that Jeepers Creepers almost over-the-top Harry Manfredini type score. It was made for $6.2 million and it grossed somewhere between $3.5 and $4 million, which, playing for one night in select cities, does not surprise me. The only positive I can give this film is Jonathan Breck as the Creeper. Though I don't really care for his look. I don't know where the red shirt came from. Yeah, granted, he lost all his clothes at the end of the first film. He had to change, but the red shirt is really kind of distracting. It really takes away that kind of walking silhouette that he is kind of known as. I just saw it as very distracting. But Breck still has the same facial, movements, same body acting that he did in the first two. There's still some great things that he does. He's unable to save the film. I mean, a lot of stuff he does with his eyes or like his quick head movements, the way he walks, still does like that sniffing thing. Jonathan Breck is still good. And he still kind of has that creepy, at one point a cop has a gun drawn on him while he's eating this guy and he's just... Or when he goes up to this truck where our two, I guess, main characters are. There's like three stories going on at the same time. There's blood on the window and the way he just kind of puts a little streak and then puts his eye against it. Or a couple scenes where he throws a CGI spear, which I'll get into the CGI. Like when he goes to aim it and he's just like, the way that eye just like bugs out. Jonathan Breck is still awesome. I feel like this movie doesn't really let him do a whole lot, but what he is able to do, when he's on screen, that's the highlight. Especially the first scene he's in, where he takes his truck off the impound truck and is driving itself. I'll get to the Creeper truck as well. And he's just kind of standing on the roof as he looks at the cop and the driver. As it goes down the road, he's just staring at it. There are a couple scenes where you see him doing stuff in the background, which is kind of reminiscent of the first film. But for the most part, this movie's just awful, unfocused. You have, okay, it takes place immediately after the first film. So the sheriff, the truck is still outside the sheriff's station. You have him teaming up with this guy, Kirk, who supposedly faced the Creeper 23 years ago and has sort of built this little renegade army of survivors or loved ones of victims. They even have like a little patch emblem of like the skull with wings and flames around it. And he's trying to convince the sheriff that, you're one of us now. You've seen it. You know what it is, what it's capable of. You have to help fight it. Then you have Meg Foster, whose son, 23 years ago, which is the opening of the film, witnesses someone being taken away by the Creeper. Creeper's old dispatch hand falls. He takes it, and then sometime after is killed by the Creeper. And she's our psychic for this film because each one has a psychic. The only one that made sense was the first one, but somehow Meg Foster can see and communicate with her dead son where he buried the hand on the property, and he keeps trying to tell her the hand is here, he's going to come for it, you have a few days. Which, if this hand is so important, I don't know why it's on the next to last day of his cycle. Which even the back of the case says, on the last day of the Creeper's 23-day feeding frenzy, when we open up, the movie ends the next day, which goes into Jeepers Creepers 2, which is the last day. So, everything about this movie is just incomprehensible, unorganized. It doesn't know what it is or wants to be. Like, I don't know why he would just go out there on the first day to get the hand, or why she decides to dig it up now after 23 years. But then her granddaughter, you got like the love story between her and the guy that works at like the horse feed place, and those are our stories. You got some fodder in between, like you got the scene with the four friends on dirt bikes, some other stuff going on in between, and really the movie just doesn't make any sense. I know ever since 2006 when they first announced it, it was gonna either reveal the origins and explain who and what the Creeper is, or at least give hints. And that's kind of one of the constant things that 3 has always promised. They set it up in this film because each Jeepers Creepers film, they kind of rewrite the rules. Here, apparently, the Creeper doesn't want to lose any dispatched limbs or body parts, which is why he's going after this hand. Where in 2, which came up before this, he's tossing his old head. He's just throwing stuff around. He doesn't care. And apparently, if you touch a lost body part, it's kind of like Slither, where, you know, when she's got the slug, she can see its history, where you see everything about all its memories, what it is, its origins, where it came from, how to defeat it. But we don't see it. You know, they kind of go to this white eye trance state. It can even levitate them up. We don't see what they see, because eventually she calls the sheriff and this guy Kirk and their army, and they all take turns touching the damn thing. But we don't see it. They don't reveal it to us. And I've said in many reviews, with sort of interesting and enigmatic characters, I don't really like explanations. You know, like Michael Myers, he kills just because. When he give an explanation, it takes that intrigue away from him. But I've always been interested in the Creeper and just seeing, okay, what is he? Where did he come from? How long has he been doing this? So that is one thing I was interested. And the one time where I went into a movie hoping they would explain it because they said they were going to, they don't. Yet every other character that I'm interested in, and I hope they leave them alone, they make a fucking origin movie out of, because that's life. But, and yeah, we pretty much just bounce back and forth in between these 3 plot lines. And the acting is pretty bad. I mean, the guy that plays Kirk is okay, but the whole time I'm watching it, I'm just thinking, wouldn't it have been great if that was Keith David? It really would have. But the acting, for the most part, is just either there or bad. Especially when you get the 4 bros on dirt bikes. And there's like laughable I don't know if it's tongue in cheek or what, but like they find the truck, they talk about the legends and the rumors, and they're just approaching the truck very, you know, cautiously, and one of them literally says, "Jeepers creepers," and they look at what? Isn't that the song? So it's got some laughable dialogue as well. It it also, just to go back to the hand. And this is the last time we see the creeper. He gets so mad because eventually they take the hand. I think they sever a finger or something, so it's still not complete. I don't know if that's part of it, but they leave a note saying, "We know what you are," and he just collapses and screams in anger. I don't know if it's because they now know how to defeat it. I don't know. Just explain why that would piss him off. But when he screams, all these crows die. Which, that's another power he has. This loud ass T-Rex scream. It's not just the banshee shriek that he's done. This is like a loud roar. Which at one point he does to crack a window so he can punch through it. Even though in the same scene, we see him throw a trailer with tanks on it. So, it's not cohesive at all. Before I go into the CGI, which is the biggest detriment to this film, the truck. Now, the truck, I could buy in the first film that he had a vanity license plate. Which, yeah, they do say in this it's homemade, which makes more sense. But this thing is like, I'm sure people have called it the Batmobile before, but this thing is gadgeted to shit. And I do not buy that this ancient monster living in rural-ass Florida has the technology or the ability to reinforce this old 1941 truck. I mean, when the sheriff is shooting at it, the bullets bounce back even off the tires, even off the rubber tires. Also, this thing can shoot harpoons and spears through the exhaust. It can, apparently it can tell, it's like motion detected, but it can tell if it's the creeper or not. So like the back doors, spikes will come down, or like down underneath the seat, a spike will come out. Even the windows will deflect bullets. This thing is completely reinforced, and I don't buy it a bit. But the worst thing is it shoots these little like cannonballs with like razors around it that apparently when you shoot them, they explode. Now, that by itself is a dumb idea, but the CGI that's used on this thing, this came out in 2017. Those little razor balls that it shoots out, the CGI is like 1995 Langoliers bad. Like, it feels like a Sci-Fi Channel release, which actually I think it premiered or played on the Sci-Fi Channel after a point. It played in theaters. Yeah, after theatrical showing, it had its television premiere on Sci-Fi. So there you go. It's Sci-Fi Channel bad. Even when he goes to throw his spear, the spear itself is CGI. Even when he goes to hang it back on the thing, the tip is CGI. But the second time he goes to throw it at night, it's a bit more noticeable. When he goes to throw it, his hand is like this. And it's so poorly rendered that you can see the space on top of his hand, like where the thing is. I don't have any, like, putting shelves together. It's literally sitting in his hand like this. Like, that's what it looks like. And it's rendered so badly. And it's like a terrible computer graphic. And then it looks so cartoony when his truck backfires on him. Because the main young girl here, she's prisoner in his truck for like half the movie. She's trying to crawl away from him, and he's on top of her. And the spike shooter from under the seat goes through his head. He has a CGI eye that's like bugging out and going like this. Cartoony as hell. Then it just falls out. Like just a white ball eyeball falls out. It looks like a cartoon. You can't take it seriously at all. So, yeah, the CGI is awful. All the ideas with the truck are stupid. I don't think they're cool at all. And made it so futuristic and different that you kind of go back to the first films. It's just like, where was all that? Could he have just used that on Trish and Derry in the first film? Or anyone he was chasing after the first film? But, so yeah, everything with the truck, bad. All the CGI, terrible. All new lore that they've added. Like, I mean, I don't mind the idea that if there's a severed part, that if you touch it, it'll give you all these images. That I don't mind. That can be turned into something good. But the way they handle it is half-assed. It's just a thought. They don't deliver on anything. The fact that he needs all these parts back, and that he gets mad when I don't know. Maybe he's more mad that they figured out what he is. But also, making him roar was really stupid. And then having this renegade army of survivors or loved ones where... And also, where's Jez or Jezebel or whatever her name was from the first film? She's gone. I know she left the sheriff's station at the very end of the first film, but, when word gets out that, hey, the sheriffs are now going after the creeper, wouldn't she have been one of the first ones there, even just to say, I told you so? But no, she's nowhere to be found. That's why we get this new Kirk character. And this movie's just a colossal mess. And I could just sit here and just talk about every aspect, but nothing else left to say about the story. Also, the scenes during the day, I would say, are less effective because I feel like the CGI stands out more during the daytime. Like when the four friends are at the truck and he just lands on the roof and it's that upward shot. And he's just looking down at him with his wings out. One cool thing was actually his three friends. One of them already got away on the dirt bike. He pisses on the truck before they all leave. And when the creeper kills three of them and he goes to get back in, he stops. And he gets like right down in front of it. Sniffs and like he can tell, and even though the dude's far away, he can track him and everything. There's little tiny fractions of good ideas, which, that kind of builds off his scent, which was built up in the first two. But for new ideas, the whole idea of being able to see this thing's origin when you touch something, okay. Jonathan Brecht's performance is still, the highlight of the film, even though they don't grant him a lot to do. I think this is the first time we actually see him struggle with anything. Because after his eye falls out, he tries to throw the spear, and it's like, one eye's gone, so he's trying to aim it, and he can't, so he switches, and that doesn't work, and, he goes to fly, but his wings are fucked up. But it has some shots that are reminiscent of the first film, like the first time we see him. And he's just standing on the roof and the truck's driving itself down in the distance. He's just staring at the two characters. But, God, for a movie that took 11 years, and why the sheriff thought the Cathedral script, well, he must have got that idea from Salva himself. Why they thought Cathedral was too old, because it was 12 years old, to use yet they just made a direct sequel to part 1, which was like 15 years old. I mean, Gina Phillips would have aged 12 years. It, it could have been used. And the whole teaming up to fight this thing once and for all, they just gave us this new survivor that we've never met before, teaming up with the sheriffs. They could have just done that with Gina Phillips as Trish. But no, they just gave her a cameo at the end. So yeah, this it's unbelievable how a movie that was in development hell for so long feels so rushed and not put together. Very disappointing sequel. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to see Reborn in theaters, but I bet it's going to go straight to Netflix or Hulu in no time afterward. I'll check it out then. That's all I want to say about Jeepers Creepers 3. I actually didn't want to talk about it for this long, but the story itself, the CGI, the setup for trying to explain things about the Creeper, showing how that can be done but then not revealing anything, was really a kick to the balls, really. And yeah, just a really bad sequel and kind of a slap in the face to, you know, the fans that waited over a decade. But yeah, it had a long history of not, you know, of it being canceled or postponed. So I guess part of me kind of can't blame him for trying to put it out when he can, but it still sucks. So that's Jeepers Creepers 3. I pretty much wrapped up my extreme films, wrapped up Jeepers Creepers for now. So now I'm really going to dive into the A24 films. I've already reviewed this stack of A24. I just picked up a handful today. I've got a bunch more coming. And then I'll do countdowns, collection videos of A24, my favorite modern film company. So, of course, horror, but some will be thriller or psychological dramas, maybe less than horror or completely non-horror like Uncut Gems. But stay tuned for all that, and thank you for watching.